Welcome to the Chain Podcast. We're excited today because joining us is Yehiav, president of SmartSense by Digi. Guy is a recognized leader in IoT and supply chain technology that's transforming the food, safety, and healthcare and retail supply chains. At SmartSense, Guy focuses on leveraging IoT solutions to improve operational efficiency, compliance, as well as the customer experience across the cold chain environments. Today, we're going to dig into the cold chain, sensing, logistics, and what leaders can do to build resiliency in their supply chains. Welcome, Guy.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's exciting.
We'll dig into this. I think I understand cold chain from the food. Obviously, everybody sees the refrigerator trucks going, down their streets every day. But give me a sense, let's dial it back a little bit. You've worked and led IT and analytics companies across a number of industries. What drew you to SmartSense? What were you trying to solve when you went there?
So, there's different aspect of that, of the why 4 years ago, almost January 22, I joined SmartSense. If you look at, first of all, everyone wants to do something that impact lives of others. What we're doing at SmartSense is saving lives every day, both on reducing foodborne illnesses, retaining and regaining food safety for all the food, but also on the medicine and medical, specifically making sure that the operating room has a negative pressure, so no germs will come in, making sure that whatever the blood test that you're doing is actually continue to move until they take the specimen and actually go and check it. The whole vaccine, I was late. I just did the flu vaccine yesterday. I obviously went to one of our customers because I'm sure that it's not placebo because it was handled correctly. And so everything we do is about saving lives one at a time. And so that was on the personal note. But also if you think about the business and what we've been doing, myself and my different teams over the years, it was impacting frontline workers, making it easier for them, both on the demand-driven supply network that I built in Monterey in 1998, was around making it easy, making it on-shelf availability at any given moment for all the different industries. Later on, at Profitect for prescriptive analytics, hey, how about instead of sending reports to people, we'll just tell them what we expect them to do, what happened, and what we would like them to do, which is later on came up as Gen AI, right? So that was kind of the initial thought about it. And when I came to SmartSense, the idea was, hey, IoT is the next big thing because it's very fragmented.
Yep.
Anyone that has a smart house, you have an app for music on Sonos or Bose or Sony. You have an app for the lights. You have an app. But how about we'll just aggregate it all to have an IoT for the house? The same thing that I'm saying for the residential is what SmartSense is providing for the business, becoming the backbone of IoT, having everything at your fingertip, condition monitoring, so humidity, temperature, pressure differentials, but also gases, ripeness of fruit. Finding that 10 minutes when the avocado is fully ripe. How would you do that? Well, just sense the gases coming out of the avocado, and I can tell you exactly when it is. So that's kind of the notion is IoT market is fragmented. We can actually become the backbone and grow with it and enable that. And on the flip of it, personal, making change for people's life, on people's life.
Really interesting, Guy. Let's pick in a couple of things there. First, on sort of the compliance and the reliability, because that's a key aspect of the cold chain is ensuring that you have reliable and consistent information. What have you learned about scaling that technology across the industries? For example, in food safety and healthcare, as you pointed out before.
As you just said, food safety on the compliance and regulation. And I can tell you that on certain pillars, there's not enough regulation. On others, there's a lot too much, right? But we can talk about that later as well. But there's the food safety requirement. And then the second piece is the quality requirement, because I'll give you an example of the two, and then we can drill down to one. Let's say that you're buying an ice cream at the shop, at the grocery store. You take it home, you're opening it up, and there's ice all over it, and it doesn't taste good. Well, it will not kill you, but it changed the quality. And why is it? Because on throughout the supply chain, that ice cream package got probably to a temperature that it melted inside and then it froze again. And when you do that, the density of the ice cream is not the same. The flavor is changing. And again, it will not kill you. So there's no food safety. There's no regulation on that. But it's not the quality that the vendor, whoever made it or whoever served it to you at the grocery would like it to do, to have. And so what I've learned, number one, is that when you speak with business owner, CFO, CEOs, board, anyone like that, they care mostly around the food safety first because they don't want to end up on a front page of a magazine and newspaper about some issues. And then they also tend to say, okay, can you also help us at the same cost that I'm preventing any bad foodborne illnesses or any bad coming? Can you also help me with serving my customers with high-end quality of the food, right? And if you can, on the same cost, do both, you're a winner. You're going to be a good partner. So that was one. Second was that on any one of those verticals, the regulation and compliance will be different in every state. And so you need to cater to the highest regulated state, and then you can sell it to others. And you always need to remember that if you're speaking with a business that is only doing business in, making it up, let's say Texas, then they may not have the rigid requirement that you have in Portland, Oregon, or in Florida for food dishwasher temperature, for example. You just need to remember all of that, but you cater to the highest rigid regulation, right?
It's interesting. You mentioned it before, Guy, that we have sensors everywhere. I mean, without even knowing it. I mean, whether traffic lights or your refrigerator, or as you indicated, a number of light sensors. When people hear of IoT, they obviously think of those types of sensors. But SmartSense turns that data into decisions. Describe how that works in a real world example.
So we have the luxury of sitting on 12 years of data of condition monitoring. We grew through some acquisitions. We have some products that have been in people refrigeration for more than 12 years. And so when you look at all of this data and you identify the behavior of those assets, you then know root cause analysis. If you feed all of that, and that's what we did, we fed the engine in a machine learning algorithm, all the history, and then we now have root cause probability. When we see a behavior, it could be, oh, I see. It's either a gasket that is being leaked, so air coming out, or the door is open, or the door is not fully closed. Well, if you have those three, and those three have the same type of behavior, we now can say, hey, Abe, look at aisle 8, bottom shelf. Can you check that the door is closed? If the door is closed, well, you need to bring a technician, not in an urgent matter, but in the next week or so, because you're just, one, using too much energy. Two, if it will continue to leak like that, you may run into food safety issue or medical issues. And so you'll have a not high priority, but a ticket that you need to open. On the flip of it, if we identify that Freon is being leaked, so hey, the linear regression of the temperature going in the wrong direction is actually as such as left on right, because we actually have sensors throughout the asset. So we can identify that the way that the Freon is coming in, the temperature is going out this way. And so we'll tell you, hey, you need an urgent matter expert technician to go and check, because we believe there's Freon leak. And the Freon leak, as you know, in certain states, you actually get a high fine, like $100,000 on per day on Freon leak, besides the fact that it costs you money to recharge the Freon. And obviously all the inventory in this asset may go bad. And so with all of this data, we learn the root cause analysis, and therefore we can put standard operating procedure on how you, as running the business, would like to interact with it. I'll give you an example. One of the C-stores customers that we have is running most of their stores in very rural areas. And so running a technician in an expedite matter costs a lot of money. And
Mhm.
you would like to make sure that it's not a false positive, that it's a real thing and a ticket that needs to be put on. As a matter of fact, because we were so accurate, they're running their ticket, general manager's ticket through us first. So if a general manager walk by and say, "Oh, you know what? I think that this refrigerator is not as cool as I need it to be,"
Yeah.
she is going to put a ticket in. They found out that a lot of those tickets are wrong, and it's just because someone touched something, believe that it's not cold enough, right? Which is very subjective. And so they're running it now through us so we can identify, is it an urgent matter ticket, a regular ticket, or no ticket, and to eliminate it because they found out that it costs them a lot of money just doing subjective based on a person, touching an asset.
Guy, really interesting because you talked about, the volume of data that you have, a number of years in terms of the volume. This would not be possible without AI and predictive analytics and the large language models. Give me a sense of how that's enabled you to, truly drive supply chain resilience through that data.
Yeah, and as you just said, also we do it as a minimum at the time lag of 5, 10, 15 minutes increment. So we don't have just the history, but we actually understand the small nuances of changes of the conditions monitoring, humidity, temperature, pressure, and others. Um, and so the first thing that when I joined and I heard that we're sitting on a lot of this data and the new developers came by and start throwing ideas in, we thought, you know what, we're sitting on so much data. Let's prioritize what we want to do first and what we want to do last, and how can we impact what the customer, what matters to the customer first. We hired a PhD. She's amazing, Faye, and she looked at all this data, interviewed some customers, and what we find out is that customers have the highest issue is uh, self-correcting alarms. What do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Let's say that you just received a vaccine tray and you took it off the truck, you put it in your on your shelf, and you open up your asset and you're now filling that asset with the vaccine. Well, the door will be open for about 20 minutes.
Right.
Guess what happened? The air, the ambient air in the refrigerator will actually go down, and an alert will actually be flagged.
Right.
But it's a known alert. It's not yet high risk. And if I
Right.
close the door now, within 15 minutes, the temperature will self-correct itself.
Yep.
Well, what happened is that we would flag the alert because the door is open and because we know that there is an issue, because you may fill this inventory at different times of the day. And so it's not a behavior that is always known. And so when we identify that's what we call self-correcting alarm, we can actually suppress it and wait for another interval and see if actually the door was closed and if
Mhm.
the temperature is going in the right direction. So even if the ambient temperature was still an
Right.
excursion, but it's going in the right direction and we know the effect, we can suppress it. So we called it SmartClose. And the SmartClose means, hey, I can smartly and automagically close those alarms so it doesn't
Yep.
bother you
Right.
when I know that it's a self-correcting item and will fix it by itself.
Interesting.
And we also tag it. So we tag it with, we believe the door was open and we believe it doesn't need to be,
You're
but
still tracking
you're
it.
still tracking it.
Sense guy, what's the misconception most companies have about adopting IoT or digital sensing? What are they getting wrong about it?
I'll tell you the first thing. I just came out from a call with a large hospital that is looking to replace their current IoT backbone with ours. There are issues with the legacy system. You know,
Mhm.
we every 5 years um, we improve our technology by almost by a century from a progression perspective. Yet a lot of hospitals and other customers are using legacies that have been wired for many years, or
Mhm.
using your Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And so I think that what a lot of businesses don't realize is that it would not take you the same amount of time to implement a new IoT backbone as it took you 5, 10 years ago. And so what people remember is, oh, you remember those implementation? It took us like 7 months to do it. Well, today you can do it in a week,
Yeah.
but in your back of your head, it's a hike to go and replace it.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that it's not just so easy to do it, but because it has a lot of automagically things,
Hmm.
your manpower to maintain it now will be less. You
Hmm.
can actually now reverse a lot of manpower to deal with clients and have a better, much better guest experience, both in the grocery, C-stores, hospitals, healthcare clinic, whatever have you. It will actually make your people life easier, right?
Hmm.
A lot of time I hear, oh, I don't need, you have a Ferrari. I don't need a Ferrari. I need a Toyota. Well, what you miss is that it's not that we have a Ferrari and a Toyota. We have a Toyota and you have a bicycle. So by the time you get to point B, you're all sweaty and you spend much more time. That's the analogy, right? It's not that, hey, I need a Ferrari and I have a Toyota,
Right.
because that I agree. You don't need a Ferrari. It's nice to drive it. But compared to a bicycle and not electric, not an e-bike like I bought my wife, it's actually a real bike that you need to get from point A to point B. You just be sweating, and people would leave you also. Which point to another, remind me later. I'll talk about demand liquidation between industries, but I'll get to that later.
It's interesting, and I will pick up on that in a second. But I want to talk sort of the risks that are associated with this connecting almost everything today. And we saw it as a result of the pandemic, the lack of visibility a lot of organizations had into their extended supply chains. So digital transformation has been on an extraordinary trajectory to connect all your partners so that you can get real-time, relevant, timely information. What we're seeing is the risk on ransomware and cyber attacks on these extended partners is creating a higher risk profile for the primes. How do you assess your risk profile as you're connecting, as you indicated, the clinics as well as the logistics, the trucks and everything else?
So we went in the last 3 years through a rigorous SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and renewal of that certification. By now, it's important that the SOC 2 Type 2 is not just on the cloud provider
Hmm.
and only some of your solution.
Hmm.
You do need to run it through the end to end of your solution, input to output, hardware, software, website, agent, all combined. That's number one. Number two, if you now have multiple vendors that have handshake between them and they're all SOC 2 Type 2 compliance through hardware and software,
Hmm.
you're minimizing the risk. Is it fully defendant? 99.5%. The whole chain risk has the highest risk of any participant in the chain, right? And so I think that through that, it's if you do a rigorous analysis of the SOC 2 Type 2 across the board, it will make it easier. Another thing that is coming finally after many years to fruition is the blockchain and the blockchain handshake. And so if you have the blockchain handshake, you do not need to contaminate systems. You can actually put it on a public ledger. This company write it, this company reads it. And so the handshake is through a public ledger, through blockchain, and therefore you don't exchange anything. There's minimum risk for contamination as well. I'm talking about data and risk of
Yeah.
you know, uh, risk of being hacked into. Yeah.
It's interesting when we talk, I want to dig into the cross industry and specifically how SmartSense plays into reducing waste from food loss or energy efficiency. Are customers interested in it? Because we seem to have a little bit less on the discussion today about that. Give me a sense of how that's playing into the value proposition for SmartSense.
So I'll do it in two steps, if you will. One will be more becoming green and more friendly to the environment. And then the other thing is impacting my own margin on reducing waste. Becoming greener, if you help them, you'll be higher prioritized as a vendor. But I don't think that today you will be able to get budget projects for becoming greener, right? Unless it's under a compliance regulatory requirement. For example, freon leak. I mean, freon is, we all know by now, freon is the number one issues that hurts our Earth, right? That's definitely should not be leaked. You can use it under a certain condition. And so because we identify leakage first, I think that we get priorities as a vendor across the board because it also impacts your margin because the fees are pretty high. Um, the second piece is, from a food-based perspective, we did an analysis. I mean, it's known on a yearly basis, global waste is about $100 billion on food. Food waste, $100 billion. That's like 70 countries'
Yeah.
GDPs.
Yep.
It's an enormous amount of dollars. Uh, and so if you do both food safety compliance, uh, better, more friendlier environment, and you impact my own margin by reducing waste, well, that's a triple whammy. You just get a higher priority, and that's what we do. If you think about food waste in company, in places in Europe, actually more even in the US, you don't have a landfill that is available,
Right.
and so it costs you a lot of money to waste. Even here, when you have food waste, sometimes the food is not good for humans, but you can actually sell it to pet food manufacturer.
Yep.
But think about reverse logistics for that. It costs you money. It will still cost you money. And so anything that you can reduce, um, if you can reduce on the waste, will help you justify the project. But believe it or not, recently we had grocers who looked at it not just as a food safety, not just as reducing waste, but as serving customer better. And that was an eye opener for me. Not everyone is looking at it this way. But how many times did it happen to you that you went to a grocery, you got the mushrooms from the shelf, you put in the refrigerator for a Saturday meal that you need to make. You open up the refrigerator on Saturday morning and you see suddenly those are brown
Yeah.
mushrooms now. And it's been like 3 days only.
Yeah.
And so those merchandise for fresh, looking at how can I impact the longevity of all of my produce as long as I can, even through the consumer's
Right.
refrigeration time, because then I cater for better, less waste across the board and better customer quality delivery. And so they analyzed it and they found out that for every 1 hour out of compliance temperature condition monitoring, both humidity and temperature, you're getting a 1 day less of longevity. And so optimize all of it. Optimize supply chain doesn't just mean you're doing an amazing pick, drop, pick, ship.
Right.
It actually means that it doesn't stay on the dock.
Yep.
Pallet doesn't stay on a, in a July supply chain backroom dock of a truck, you can get to 150 degrees. And so you have the strawberries sitting there for even 15 minutes and you reduce like half a day of that longevity, just like that, right? Um, and so they're looking at, hey, can you track when the truck is coming in? Can you track the condition monitoring on the truck? And can you do it without adding any complexity? So you
Right.
don't need to have yet another gateway and another system and another. Can you do it all at once? And so our team came up with a credit card size sensor that put all of that in it, which means light. It has a gyro for movement. It knows that it's moving. It has GPS location within a 3 meter accuracy. And it has, of course, humidity and temperature. And so if you put it on a case of a produce, a meat pallet, uh, it will not just tell you that the meat pallet was within the regulatory
Right.
requirement. It will also tell you in the store, hey, Joanne, whatever you're doing now, finish it within 20 minutes. The truck with the meat pallet is arriving in 20 minutes, a little bit earlier than planned.
Mhm.
So don't let it sit on the dock. And so if I have it in advance, I actually streamline my process and my workflow, and therefore the pallet will not be in an excursion of temperature even for 1 minute. It will just actually, someone will wait for it when it comes in. You take it, you put it in the walk-in, and now it's back into the into temperature. And so think about safety, food safety,
Yeah.
as well as quality, longevity, and the whole 9 yards of manufacture all the way to delivery to the refrigeration of a consumer, and optimize all of that through that lens of humidity temperature controls.
It's extraordinary because one of the things that we, painfully learned through the pandemic is, as we talked before, we did not have visibility to our extended supply chain. So we worked very hard through digital transformation and IoT and the sensing technologies to get that connectivity. So now, theoretically, that we should not be able to walk into our C-suite and say, I don't know who or what is in my supply chain. So now we should have full visibility. The next step was the transparency, and that is ensuring that we are getting accurate, relevant, timely information. And as you indicated, technology is the lever that gets us there. The last step and sort of the last frontier is traceability. We're really not there right now for the consumer to understand where their product came from, how far did it travel, how did it travel, when it got to you, and under what conditions. Are we at a point that we can make it available for the consumer, or is it still within the four walls of the organization?
I would say it's very close. So on the pharmacy side, we are there. And that was I think it was 2023 when it came out, the regulation of traceability. So you can identify if you go and buy any type of pills, is it truly made by Merck or not? Is it truly by Johnson Johnson or not? Because you had a lot of issues with Me Too type pills. And so FISMA 204 that was supposed to be announced going to regulation January, just last January, was kicked out by they kicked out the can another 3 years,
Mhm.
and it will come through. And that was to identify, if you trace a root cause of a salmonella, let's say, all the way to a specific farm and a date, you can then say, hey, show me all the product
Right.
that are coming from this farm on that date. What I believe will happen very soon is if you actually transform that case, trade, tates, and pallets movement with a temperature humidity control across the supply chain, you have the handshake of a blockchain that
Mhm.
you are sure that it came from that farm and that it held temperature and humidity across the board. There will be a day in about 3 to 4 years, I believe, that when you go to buy your baby spinach at the store, you will see a $2, $5, $10 baby spinach. The
Mhm.
$2, it will tell you within 2 days you should eat it
Mhm.
because it had some overage of temperature excursion.
Right.
The $5 is you'll have it within the 5, 7 days. And the
Right.
$10, hey, you can have it and consume it over the next 15 days because of the longevity that came with it, that you know that it actually didn't have any excursion of temperature. And then if you have a QR code, you just
Scan it
show
and
it, scan
yep.
it, and it will show you all the handshakes on
Yep.
a publicly held ledger of how it arrived here. Hey,
Yep.
there's 23 handshakes.
Yeah.
Those are the companies. Those are the times that it did it. I think that would be just amazing, and it will give you and cater to you on both. The grocery will be able to cater to higher margin
Yeah.
based on your demand,
We
right?
should have lower food waste, as you indicated before.
So
This, as long as we can now trace it from origin all the way to our shelf and to the refrigerator, I think we have much better
correct.
information. But technology adoption is rarely about technology alone, Guy. What's the biggest barrier or enabler you see in workforce readiness for the digital supply chains that we're, dealing with today? Give me a sense on that.
I'll actually start with vice versa, with the ask of having the technology, like my daughters, and then we'll go to the obstacles. But that's what I called. When I was at Zebra, I coined it. demand liquidity between verticals, right?
Mm.
So today, when you order an Uber or a Lyft, you know, you have the face of the driver, the car, the plate. You may know how many kids the driver have. You know, you know everything. You know where they are. You know when they're coming. You know where they stop, that they start moving. You know everything. Yet when you buy the spinach at the supermarket, you don't know anything. Right? Right?
And which is more likely to cause you harm. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so, and when you even do a vaccine, I did the flu. I mean, I did it with my customers, so I could actually, I took the number and I traced it, and I know exactly where it came from, but not everyone can do it. But when you have a vaccine, they put it in your body and you
Yeah.
still cannot ask, can I trace it? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy. Um, so I think that um, demand by the workers of, hey, I want to make it easy for me as well.
Yeah.
How come you don't have a device that I could just scan and get the information? That's number one. So today, if you go to any CVS, Walgreens, Target, Walmart, you'll see a lot of Zebra devices, some Honeywell. Again, my background is Zebra, so I will mention Zebra more often. But you get it, and you see a lot of people using it. Hey, inventory. I'm much more accurate in inventory today. Still, when I just bought my daughter a ski coat, and after I paid, 24 hours later, they told me, no, we're sorry, we don't really have it. So you still have those glitches, which is
Yeah.
mind-boggling. I mean, you have the inventory, you bought it. How come
Yeah.
you don't know where it is?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's a convoluted of process and technology and culture. And culture is the people aspect. So people,
Yeah.
technology, process. And those needs to start working together. One of them is pushing the other typically. Sometimes you implement a new solution that then push the process to adopt that solution.
Yeah.
And then it pushed the people,
Yeah.
hey, I need you to just
It
streamline
drags
that.
them into it as opposed to leading with them. Yes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
others, you may hire people that are outspoken, like my daughter, and she will, if you'll hire her and you don't have a mobile device, she'll say, how do you expect me to do it? I need, I cannot do it. So she will just resign.
Yeah.
And so you have a Gen Z that is driving now in the workforce more and more all of those requirements. And that's what I call about demand liquidation. You make today, it's, it's not agents, it's not AI agents, but you can call it. You put on a Siri, you can do sequence. You can actually configure your Apple, your iPhone. So when I go to my office, I could say on the office, hey Siri, get me my Dunkin'. Or hey Siri, get me my
Yeah.
Starbucks, just from a branding perspective,
Yeah.
because both are customers. But Siri will actually go to the app, run the app, knows what I need,
Yeah.
order it, and it will wait for me.
Yeah.
When I come, it's not agent AI, by the way. It's actually just a sequence. It's still dumb, but
Yeah.
it's getting you to the notion of, hey, if I now have actually true agents that have an IQ
Yeah.
that can take my
Try to
request and
extend that.
go
Yeah.
with, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully they will not be wrong and buy me a ticket, a flying ticket instead of Turks and Caicos to another place. Providencialis, yes,
The
Providence,
Turks
Rhode
and Caicos is
Island.
a lot like Turkey. Yeah. You
Yeah,
want to end up in one, not the other. Yes.
exactly. So,
If you had one
yeah.
piece of advice for a leader today that is evaluating and taking a look at the IoT and sensing, what's that one piece of advice on how to get them to think about this?
Look at it as three things, as I said, on the technology, process, and people.
Mm-hmm.
And see, what do you need to influence? If you need to influence all three, don't go for it. It will
Yeah.
take you, it will be a hike.
Yeah.
If you don't have the technology, you don't have the culture and the people, and you don't have the process to support it, let's start with one of them. Process will be probably the one. Let's map it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then let's buy the technology that supports it later. Uh, if you have two of them, it's so easy to get the third.
Yeah.
You just need to get the right technology, or create the right culture, or create the right process that supports it.
Guy, I can't thank you enough. I think you've reminded us and also put some, confidence and fear into us about, what we buy, how we get it, and what we do with it. And I think you've reminded us that every data point that we can sense and every decision that we can make, we can do it smarter. Thank you for joining us today, Guy.
Thank you for having me, Abe.
All the best.